Murdered in cold blood. Conservative influencer and fierce Israel advocate Charlie Kirk was killed in front of thousands of college students in Utah on Wednesday. An image that has no bounds. The 31-year-old murderer was all caught on video, which showed in real time the fired shot and the direct gunshot he took to the neck, all as the crowd watched blood spew profusely out of his body. Kirk then became limp, falling over after the fatal blow. Emergency crews worked to save him, listing him in critical condition for several hours before the heartbreaking news that the husband and father of 2 young children was in fact dead. The brutal killing has sent shockwaves around the country, the world, specifically here in Israel. Government officials and citizens alike are mourning the death of a prominent evangelical Christian, saying he was a man who spent years pushing back against anti-Semitism and anti-Israel rhetoric, especially on U.S. college campuses. Kirk was a passionate person about having conversations with people whose opinions and beliefs differed from his, pushing college students to think critically in different ways. As the founder of Turning Point USA, Kirk was known for his willingness to engage in political dialogue across different lines, yet he remained firmly rooted in his Christian faith, standing unapologetically in support of Israel. A manhunt is currently underway for Kirk's killer, who is believed to have had a sniper firing the one fatal shot about 200 yards away from the rooftop of a building. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman reports on the details of Kirk's gruesome death.
Charlie Kirk, the outspoken conservative podcaster and founder of Turning Point USA, was murdered Wednesday during a campus event in Utah. Videos show Kirk speaking to students when a single gunshot rang out. He was rushed to hospital in critical condition, but later pronounced dead. Police first detained a person on site, but the FBI later confirmed the shooter remains at large. The attack adds to a troubling wave of political violence in the United States, from the assassination of a Minnesota lawmaker to last year's shooting of Donald Trump. Kirk rose to national prominence as a teenage activist and became a close ally of the president. Kirk's Turning Point USA movement energized young conservatives, often with a combative style that drew both loyal followers and sharp critics.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God.
For Israel and the Jewish world, Kirk's death resonates strongly. He was an evangelical Christian and an ardent supporter of the Jewish state, frequently traveling to Israel, backing Trump's embassy move to Jerusalem, and most recently, confronting anti-Israel rhetoric on American college campuses. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu mourned him as a lion-hearted friend of Israel, while Jewish organizations called his murder a devastating loss.
In the aftermath of the Israeli strike on Hamas's leadership in Doha, Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Qatari Prime Minister are exchanging warnings. Netanyahu saying, quote, "Bring Hamas to justice or we will." Qatar says its response is coming. Here's more with ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is taking a defiant tone amid international criticism over Israel's strike against Hamas leaders in Doha, telling Qatar, expel Hamas leaders or bring them to justice. If you don't, we will. Netanyahu compared Israel's strike to U.S. operations after the September 11, 2001 terror attacks, the anniversary of which is today.
What did America do in the wake of September 11th? It promised to hunt down the terrorists who committed this heinous crime wherever they may be. And it also passed a resolution in the Security Council of the UN 2 weeks later that said governments cannot give harbor to terrorists.
Israel followed the U.S. approach, said Netanyahu, accusing Qatar of harboring terrorists, financing Hamas, and giving its leaders mansions like the Taliban did for al-Qaeda.
We acted along those lines. We went after the terrorist masterminds who committed the October 7th massacre. And we did so in Qatar, which gives safe haven. It harbors terrorists. It finances Hamas. It gives its terrorist chieftains sumptuous villas. It gives them everything. So we did exactly what America did when it went after the terrorist, the Al-Qaeda terrorists in Afghanistan.
Netanyahu argued that the same countries that applauded the U.S. for killing bin Laden should be ashamed of themselves for condemning Israel now. Qatar says it's reassessing its mediation role in Hamas' future in the country and warns that a response to Israel's strikes is under discussion with regional partners. He said Qatar is reassessing everything about its role as a mediator between Israel and Hamas for a Gaza ceasefire. Athani accused Netanyahu of dragging the Middle East into chaos and of wasting Qatar's time, indicating he believes Israel has not been genuinely negotiating. Doha received support from Gulf leaders. The president of the UAE made a surprise visit. A UAE official said the visit by President al-Nahyan was a show of regional solidarity with Qatar following the Israeli strikes. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made a clear statement condemning what he called Israeli aggression.
نحن نرفض وندين اعتداءات السلطة الاحتلال الإسرائيلية في المنطقة وآخرها العدوان الغاشم على دولة قطر الشقيقة الذي يتطلب تحركا عربيا وإسلاميا ودوليا لمواجهة هذا العدوان واتخاذ إجراءات دولية لإيقاف سلطة الاحتلال وردعها عن ممارساتها الإجرامية في زعزعة أمن المنطقة واستقرارها. سنكون مع دولة قطر الشقيقة في كل ما تتخذه من إجراءات بلا حد ونسخر كافة إمكانياتنا لذلك.
And joining us now to discuss is Yoni Ben Menachem, a senior researcher at the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. I think the first question everyone actually wants to know is how successful were these IDF strikes in Doha on Hamas senior leadership? There's been no confirmed information so far that's come out, but what's your take on it?
We don't know yet because there is a cover-up by Qatar and by Hamas not to reveal the results of the Israeli attack on the Hamas headquarters in Doha, the capital of Qatar. But there are some leaks to the Arab media, such as the Sharq al-Awsat newspaper, saying that there were at least two members of the political bureau of Hamas that were injured, one of them in serious condition, and they are hospitalized in a private hospital in Doha. So I think it will take a couple of days until the information will come out. But it was definitely a good hit, and it carried the message to Qatar. We know, Israel knows that you are supporting terrorism, you are supporting Hamas, those who are responsible for the massacre on October 7th, and if you will not arrest them or put them to trial, Israel will do the job.
Right. There's been a number of reports that have said, though, that senior Hamas leaders may not have been eliminated. If they weren't eliminated in this strike, is it still considered to be successful?
I think beyond the operational aspect of trying to assassinate them, this attack carries a very important message that there is no safe place for the terrorists of Hamas, the terrorist leadership of Hamas. Wherever they will be in the world, they will be eliminated by Israel, even if it's 2,000 kilometers away from Israel. And even if they go to other parts of the world, the Israeli Mossad will assassinate them. So they have to know that and live in fear. Israel is determined to eliminate Hamas and the Hamas leadership.
Right. And that goes to my next question, specifically about Prime Minister Netanyahu and the comments he made yesterday, basically comparing the targeting of Hamas terrorists to the Americans hunting down Osama bin Laden after September 11th, although it took quite some time. Why are other countries condemning these strikes that the IDF did in Qatar?
Depends what countries. If you're talking about Western countries, they want the money of Qatar. They know that Hamas is a terrorist organization. As for the Arab countries, they are paying a lip service to Qatar because of its wealth, because of its money. But all the Arab regime, the Sunnite Arab regimes, the leaders of the Arab world know that that Qatar is the big supporter of the Islamic Brotherhood, the leader actually of the Islamic Brotherhood movement with Turkey, and that they support terrorism. So we don't have to take it too seriously.
And there's some developments coming out of the region right now. We are hearing that Doha will actually host an emergency Arab Islamic summit next week to discuss the attack on Qatar, with reports suggesting Qatar says they have the right to retaliate against Israel. What will be discussed in this meeting, and how realistic would it be for Qatar to actually strike Israel back?
This is a good joke. I don't suggest that the Israeli citizens will go into the shelters. Qatar has no military capabilities to attack Israel. Israel is a lot stronger, and if they continue or try to do anything, I think that the Israeli Air Force will teach them a lesson. What they can do is just, let out some steam and take decisions. All the Arabs conventions and summits, every year we have a couple of them, and they take decisions against Israel, and it goes to the archives. Nothing is implemented. Israel is a very strong nation in the Middle East, and I don't think that we should be afraid of what is Qatar is initiating, and take precautions from a possible military retaliation from Qatar. They don't have the power to do that.
Yoni Ben Menachem, thanks so much for being with us today. Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you. Thank you.
There was an epidemic. Thousands went blind. Yet one woman had a vision. It started with 2 nurses from America. Today, it's 2 world-renowned medical centers, pioneering breakthroughs and treating more than 1 million people a year. This is the work of Hadassah, America's largest Jewish women's organization, a life-changing force in Israel. For over 100 years, our vision has been clear: to help heal our world. This is Hadassah.
After sustaining heavy damages from new Israeli airstrikes, the Houthis fired yet another missile towards southern Israel this morning. It was downed by an air defense without causing damages. But last night, Israel launched yet another devastating wave of airstrikes against the Houthi targets in Yemen, hitting military camps, a propaganda headquarters, and a fuel depot. The precision strikes took out 15 key sites across a distance of 2,300 kilometers, one of the longest Israeli Air Force missions ever, according to the military. Now, the attacks left at least 35 people dead and more than 130 wounded, according to sources that spoke to the media. Now, the Houthi camps that were struck were used to, quote, plan and execute terror attacks, and contained operations and intelligence command centers used by the regime, the IDF says. Now, the latest strike came a day after the Houthis targeted Jerusalem on Tuesday night. The rocket was shot down by air defenses there. It also comes only days after a strike caused damage at Ramon Airport in the south of Israel. Today's Houthi missile fire will certainly result in likely additional attacks by Israel inside of Yemen. And it is day 706 of the war in Gaza. The IDF continues to take down high-rise buildings in the outskirts of Gaza City ahead of an expected operation to take over the city completely in the coming days and weeks. The army is also near completion of 2 new aid distribution sites in southern Gaza. Here's more with ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The IDF continues taking down Gaza City towers with the goal of eliminating Hamas observation posts. At the same time, Gazans evacuated from those buildings and elsewhere get the clear message that they must leave Gaza City and head south to humanitarian zones created by the IDF in southern Gaza. While demanding that Gazan civilians leave Gaza City for humanitarian zones, Israel is rushing to prepare 2 new aid distribution sites under construction in Rafah. The sites will be run by the U.S. and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The sites are designed to be safer and more accessible than earlier GHF locations. They'll include unloading areas and distribution zones so that when one zone runs out of food, people can be rerouted to another that's being restocked. Efforts are also being made to make the walk from coastal humanitarian areas and evacuation zones in Al-Mawasi to these new sites as short as possible. Some are within a 5 to 10 minute walk from the edge of the coastal humanitarian area, and no more than 20 minutes from others. The new sites incorporate lessons learned from chaos earlier this year, with better foot traffic routing, clearer paths, and safer perimeters using concrete barriers. The barriers protect those waiting for aid, distribution teams, and security personnel. An estimated 150,000 Palestinians have already left Gaza City, but some 850,000 remain, as larger numbers of Gaza City residents continue to move south in response to Israel's evacuation orders. These expanded aid sites are intended to relieve pressure and improve relief delivery where it's most urgent.
Every day, Efrat gives women facing unplanned pregnancies the courage and support to choose life. From cribs and strollers to food, diapers, and daycare, Efrat ensures babies are not only born, but thrive in loving homes. For more than 40 years, nearly 90,000 women have chosen motherhood with Efrat by their side. Your gift today means one more woman has a real choice. One more baby has a future. Donate now.
Israeli-Russian hostage Elizabeth Terzkov is now back in Israel and is receiving medical treatment at Sheba Hospital in Ramat Gan after her release from captivity in Iraq. The 38-year-old, who was kidnapped in Iraq while researching for her PhD at Princeton University, spent 2.5 years in Khatib Hezbollah captivity, which is a pro-Iran terror group. Now, President Trump announced her return home earlier this week, saying she was safe at the American embassy in Iraq and suffered months of torture. Terzkov was taken to Cyprus first after her release and landed Wednesday night in Israel. She will now undergo a similar protocol at Sheba Hospital the released hostages from Gaza undergo when they return home. Her family thanks the Trump administration for fighting for her release, even though she's not an American citizen. Iranian media is also reporting that Terzkov was released in exchange for 2 members of Iranian proxy groups. Among them is a senior Hezbollah member captured by the IDF.
Every expert would have told you that Israel's day had passed and Iran was the regnant power in the Middle East. And so far, tiny Israel has succeeded in neutralizing all of the Iranian air defenses, virtually all of them, the security leaders of Iran. One of the key ways we did it is through innovation. And that innovation, as you know, came from the Technion. I was involved intimately with the development and funding of Iron Dome, of David Sling, Arrow 2. None of that would have been possible without Technion. The university has played a pivotal role in saving thousands of lives. Technology is a type of Iron Dome for the society as itself. And it's not just a localized Iron Dome, it's a globalized Iron Dome. We have to invest. As we invest in R&D, we have to invest in the minds behind R&D. Israel has to make itself indispensable to the world. And the only way we're going to do this is through technology. It's Israeli technologies that are not only helping to forge the 21st century, but it also enhances the security of American families, American individuals from now into the future.
An international backlash is mounting against Israel after its strike in Qatar, with Canada now reevaluating ties with the EU, threatening sanctions. More on this from ILTV's executive editor, Mayan Hoffman.
Canada says it is evaluating its relationship with Israel after this week's strike in Doha. Foreign Minister Anita Anand called the attack unacceptable, while Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned it as an intolerable expansion of violence and an affront to Qatar's sovereignty. Carney warned the strike risks escalating conflict across the region and undermines efforts to free hostages and reach a ceasefire. The sharp words mark a significant shift for Ottawa, which is also expected to recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations General Assembly later this month. The vote is shaping up as a watershed moment, with several European countries signaling they will follow suit.
So we are ensuring that, first and foremost, we are on a track to recognize Palestine formally. And that is the work that the Prime Minister and I have been doing over the course of the last number of months. We are very surprised and disheartened at the Israeli attack in Qatar yesterday. And as a result of the declining stability in the Middle East, we will continue to evaluate our next steps.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said Brussels will propose sanctioning extremist Israeli ministers and partially suspend its trade agreement with Israel, while launching a new Palestinian donor group next month focused on Gaza reconstruction.
We will put our bilateral support to Israel on hold. We will propose sanctions on the extremist ministers and on violent settlers. And we will also propose a partial suspension of the association agreement on trade-related matters.
Britain's Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper also denounced Israel's action, calling it a flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty and a setback for ceasefire negotiations. French President Emmanuel Macron said the strikes were unacceptable and insisted war must under no circumstances spread in the region. German officials used similar language. The mounting criticism underscores a coordinated international pushback against Israel, even among allies. With the UN debate on Palestinian statehood just weeks away, the fallout from the Doha strike is likely to intensify.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog has wrapped up a meeting in London with the British Prime Minister, in which the president voiced strong concerns over the UK's decision to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly this month. Herzog stressed that this move would not help bring hostages held by Hamas in Gaza home or end the conflict. Instead, he says it awards terror. Herzog also strongly argued against any UK sanctions against Israel, warning that such actions would play into Hamas's propaganda campaign, which falsely accuses Israel of starving Gaza's population while hostages remain in captivity. The Israeli president emphasized that Israel's fight against Iran and its terror proxies, calling it a shared struggle with the West. He thanked the UK for joining Germany and France in pressuring Iran over its nuclear ambitions, saying preventing a nuclear-armed Iran is crucial for global security.
Some family secrets aren't locked in safes. They're locked in language. Your heritage is waiting in Hebrew. The conversations at dinner tables, the inscriptions on heirlooms, the letters that shaped your history. When you study with Rosen Hebrew School, you can discover your family's past. In months, not years, you'll connect with long-lost ancestors through language. Stop being a spectator in your own family story. We don't just teach Hebrew, we unlock the stories that made you, you. Which family mystery will you solve?
And let's take a look at the weather forecast right now. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. And tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside steady temperatures, seeing highs of 34 degrees Celsius or 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. You can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Shosh Bedrosian. Thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.